everyone. I found this picture on Wikimedia Commons and thought I would try to trace the god Horus here in Illustrator for use in a logo perhaps. And so I'm going to go ahead and save my image URL into a document so I can trace it. But right now I'm going to take the copy image and go over here to test it out on a new Adobe Illustrator document. And we'll go with, let's see, 14, 10, 14. Call it a logo of Horus. And I'm going to make it 20 by 20. So I'm just going to make a square logo that'll fit in the width of one of the panels. Again, in picas, and the color mode doesn't really matter so much. Now when I paste that in here and hit Control-, you'll see that the actual image was high resolution and much bigger than my artboard. So I need to fit him on my artboard before I can trace him. So I'm going to go ahead and change the scale by grabbing an anchor point and then holding down Shift. You don't want to stretch him any more than he already is. So hold down Shift as you resize, and then you can move it back into position. That puts us more in the ballpark. If I want him a little bigger, I can bring him back up and position him there. So in order to trace, I think it's going to be much easier if I reduce the opacity of the original so that I'm just going over onto the artboard with something that's underneath. I'm going to use my pencil tool here and just start sketching around him. As you'll see, there is no weight to my stroke, so I'm going to do two things. I'm going to increase the stroke weight and zoom in so I can see a little more clearly. So I've got the beginnings here, and I can continue just by clicking on that last anchor point and tracing around this carving in the side of the temple. Now it can't be too exact because there's pieces of it missing, but I'm just going to see if I can get the outline and make adjustments after the fact. I'm going to hold down the space bar and just keep on drawing. Give him some square feet there. It's hard to draw with a mouse, of course, so the ability to make changes to this curve that's going around him after the fact is going to be pretty essential. So I'm going to make it even rougher just so you can really see how easy this is. Now I may want to try and put this headdress on him as well, so let's see what that looks like. When I get to the very first one, it connects all the dots for me there, and I can see what it looks like. And it does a pretty good job of smoothing things out. And this is the point where I may decide, let me turn off. Let's see. If I look at my layers, I did draw directly on my layer that has the picture. So I'm going to make a selection and cut, and then make a new layer and paste, and then reposition it with my arrow keys back to where it was. Should have drawn on its own layer. That's a little hard to do sometimes. But then I can turn the background off and see what I have very easily. Okay, so if I want to make adjustments to these anchor points now, I can click my direct selection tool on an anchor point and bring it in. I can use these to tweak it a little bit. If I decide that actually doesn't look very good to me, I can actually go back to my pencil tool and draw right here, and it will make a new path that does not include the headdress. I'm going to zoom in here and try and make some more adjustments. If I don't have a way of moving that in right there, it just moves the whole thing because there's no anchor point, and trying to get this curve exactly right is a little tough. One thing you can do is go to your pen tool and add an anchor point right where you want it. Then when you go back to your direct selection, there'll be something there for, be something there for you to pull in. So we can straighten things out, we can take up the slack in some places. Here we can bring that in, make it look a little more like the original. Hand especially right here might need some extra anchor points, but doesn't look too bad. This one right here, trying to get that to come in a little bit. Yep, it let me. So what about right here? It'd be great if it looked like he was holding something. We could add a few more points in there and then move them in. Maybe something like that, so he looks like a lobster claw. Maybe not. So you can also remove points. So there's a delete anchor point if I want to go back to just the club hand look there. So you can really manipulate these points after the fact. You can add them and remove them if you need to make more adjustments. But that was a pretty quick sketch around in order to give me the shape that I was looking for. And of course, after you do that, you can make a fill of whatever color that you want for your logo. You can turn him into something that's 3D. I hadn't tried this yet, but let's see what different kinds of 3D effects we might be able to do. Could make a sarcophagus. Some interesting things there. That doesn't actually look too bad. Let's go over to appearance and maybe have the extrude and bevel not be quite so much. So make it a 10, maybe even less. Let's do a preview and drop it down to 5 so we can see what that looks like. That looks kind of nice. Take a look at the angle, maybe have it not quite such a steep angle. Hit preview and click OK. So now I could rotate that if I wanted to a little bit. Try and get that 3D look but still maintain the two-dimensional aspect. So that's a way of taking a picture off the internet and turning it into a shape that you can then adjust. After you're done, you can take that layer and delete it completely or leave it in there. You can delete layers by simply clicking delete selection, and then you're left with just the drawing that you made.